Hello, just thought I'd share with you some of the slides again from the Mastering Manual Mode course I've developed. It's an online course that you'll be able to access soon. If you go to richardbarleyphotography.com and send a contact form, I can give you early access to the course. Just send your details through, and when it's ready I'll send you a link. Just a few slides, just part of the course. Depth of field is covered very thoroughly, to be honest with you. I think what I've had to do with the course is it's quite a big subject, and I've crushed it down and made it as, you know, you should be able to get this. So if you're struggling with depth of field, this course is ideal for you, the Mastering Manual Mode course. So let's just give you some ideas of what's in the course. So 25mm through to 200mm. What I teach you is my focal lengths, literally the range now, my usable range, what I'm using all the time is from 24 to 200mm. I know that there's not a 25mm Canon Prime, that'll probably be in the comments pretty quickly, but it allows me to jump between these numbers, which are quite logical, doubling every time. And when you do the full course you'll see why, because it makes it very easy to work out your settings. Anyway, let's go back to depth of field. So depth of field, if you talk to most people, is all about apertures. One of the biggest differences with my course and what I teach and the way I work is I really go back 100 years and look at the fact there weren't any f-stop changes anyway. It was fixed aperture lenses. Focal length came in with lenses, and you know, f-stops came in eventually, but the bottom line is, not me, but most people tend to be f-stop based photographers, I find, which means they're constantly altering the size of the aperture in their lens. This is a big negative, I think, especially for depth of field and then in photography. So I teach you a different route, which is focal length. So let's just tell you a bit about that. So focal length has a massive input in the depth of field in your image. Now, depth of field, you might hear it called depth of focus, or the focus zone, zone focusing, all sorts of things. Essentially what we're looking at is if we focus on the subject, when does it become soft and blurry behind, and when does it become soft and blurry in front? And this area is called acceptable sharpness, really. We want critical focusing, where we focus on the subject maybe, but we get this fall off in focus either side of the subject. So what I found pretty quickly was I could fix my aperture at 5.6. That was one thing I didn't need to worry about anymore, and I could just use focal length. So I use from 25 to 50mm as my focal lengths at weddings to produce maximum depth of field at 5.6. So typical scenes might be reportage type images where I'm doing bridal preparation at 24, 25mm, maybe 35mm. Generally on the wider end of things at 5.6, to be honest. Getting maximum depth of field at 5.6 within the room. All the way through to 50mm, which is more like scenes with maybe buildings in the background, or you know, some macro stuff maybe. So yeah, I worked in that range and I fixed the aperture, and I used focal length to some degree to affect my depth of field. Going to the other end of things, just showing you that 100mm to 200mm, they were really obviously my portrait lenses, my longer lenses, but at 5.6 these become my narrow depth of field or shallow depth of field, or if you like, those blurry photos you like where the subject's nice and sharp, the background's blurry, and if you're shooting through some trees, the foreground trees will be blurry. You know, the atmospheric type images that you like. So I just found by using focal length it was a lot quicker to affect depth of field than moving the aperture all the time. I can change with the zoom lens between 100 and 200 in literally milliseconds, or from 70ish, which was very useful, just above 50mm. for groups, so 70 through to 200. So it gives you some idea of why I think differently with this. Aperture is important, it is extremely relevant in your depth of field calculations, but don't forget focal length, and people are forgetting focal length and getting very confused. So distance from your subject is massive as well with depth of field. So the distance from your plane, so your sensor, you'll see a little mark on a lot of DSLRs showing you this, through to your subject. That distance is extremely important, so the closer you get to the thing, the less depth of field you're going to get. Sensor size talked about all the time, not one for today, but is obviously relevant in the calculations of depth of field. We've got things like the focus, circular confusion, which I'm not going to confuse you with. We're looking at the major ones really. Focal length. So let's just move on, and this is only an overview obviously, but I just thought this would give you an idea of the course and how far I'm going with it. So 25mm, very useful, from 3 meters all the way through to infinity. Very useful because you just fix the aperture and you could focus at 15 meters and you've got this massive depth of field. So is there any need to be stopping down to f11? Not really most of the time. I appreciate you might get some extra room at the 3 meter end. If you do stop down, focus stacking is becoming very popular in landscape photography. So yeah, download the calculators and have a look at what you've got, and you'll find that at the wider end of things, even 35mm, you've got plenty of depth of field. Moving on to 50mm, you've still got 7.5 meters all the way through to infinity. We're still focusing at 15 meters away. We've got a good depth of field. So again, we're at 5.6. Why are we robbing the sensor of light? Why are we putting the ISO up? And you got to be asking yourself this. These are things that I know from the past, and you know, I know that there's a lot of photographers, experienced photographers, who watch this channel. So I'd appreciate your comments below, actually, just anything to do with the way you're working and depth of field, just to see what you think about this. So the other thing is 200mm end of things, as we mentioned. I'm always after this 1 meter either side of the subject. 2 meters, 1.5 meters, 1 meter. So it depends how close I am to the subject, bear that in mind. And we're at 200mm if it's a full length, or if it's 3/4 length. So you know where I'm chopping my subject, the distance from the subject to the camera. But we're looking at 15 meters here. We're using the 200mm. I'm getting 1 meter either side. So that's the bride in a dress. The groom might be being dragged behind. No, he'll be here somewhere. So you know, this is giving us a good area of sharpness when they're doing their walking. So this is important. So fixing the system, 200mm, 5.6, 1 meter either side, nice sharp shot subject. And don't forget, this falls off lovely because you're at 200mm. So you've suddenly got extremely blurry trees in the background and all the bokeh you want at 200mm. Now, just as I say this, I have to say that I moved through the 50mm 1.2 stage of life, which was a long time ago, to be honest, and I appreciate that is a different way of doing it. Larger aperture, shorter focal length. It's a different look to the image, and that's something you've got to explore yourself. But telephoto 5.6 is the route that I teach, because people get the idea that focal length is very important for depth of field. So that's just a quick look really. I've got plenty more slides to show you. I'll do another video. I can't make them that long. Obviously this course is going to be reasonably priced. We've got plenty to show you. Go to richardbarleyphotography.com, and if you want to be one of the first people to look at the course and take the course, I'm sure you're going to save many years of your life, because I've not wasted the years, but I can guarantee you this will save 5 years just by doing the course. Flash is introduced as well, so mastering manual flash, mastering manual mode is the key in my opinion. As you know, I'm very, very opinionated when it comes to this. I think, you know, I can be, because if you do follow this system, by the way, your photography is going to go flying forwards and you'll be able to focus on the art side, which is the enjoyable bit, to be honest. So technically this is going to really sort you out. Mastering manual mode at richardbarleyphotography.com. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you again soon.